Thanks for tuning in to the Spread Your Wingspan podcast.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jenny.
And we're your hosts, two friends who immediately bonded over our secret smut addictions. So join us as we journey together through our favorite romance and fantasy stories and discuss all things kinks, female pleasure, taboos, and more.
Make sure to check out the show notes for any spoiler alerts and content warnings. We're happy you're here. Let's get to today's pod.
Hello, Jenny.
Sarah.
We're back.
We're back. It's a Sunday morning. We're back.
It's Sunday morning. We're here to start season 2.
So exciting.
With a bang.
Yeah. With a lot of bangs.
Correct. Apt. We're here today to talk about Onyx Storm.
Which I feel like ever since we did the fourth wing, we knew we were going to pod Onyx Storm. Like, we knew the release date. We knew, like, that might be the first one in the new year. And here we are.
Here we are. Yes. This is a book I am proud of having read and finished, given that I have a baby at home. This is a book that you literally finished this morning.
Yes.
So, fresh in your mind.
Very fresh in my mind. I was so tired last night, and I was listening to it. At 7 o'clock, I had 5 hours left, and I was like, well, I'm just going to up the speed and we're going to get through it, which is funny because I was thinking of you because I'm not the biggest fan of the angst, but when you speed up the angst on an audiobook, it's even more angsty. And I'm like, Jenny, you really should have just finished this sooner.
Because it was like hammering you with angst.
Hammering me with angst.
Oh my goodness.
And then it was also like so much. I had a half hour left. I'm like, I'm just going to go to bed and finish this in the morning. Which I'm glad I did.
That was the right call. That last half hour really packed a punch.
Half hour lasted 4 hours.
Yeah. So you to keep pausing?
No, just like the
intensity.
Intensity.
Yeah.
So much happened. And there's so many questions. But okay.
You
are our excellent outliner. I'm going to let you.
I've been on Reddit, friends.
Yes.
Okay. Well, to begin, we have the summary.
Yes.
Picking up pretty much right where Iron Flame left off, we join our protagonist, Violet Sorrengail, and her squad mates as they protect Basgiath from continued venom threats after the battle at the end of last book. Xaden is trying his best to resist the lure of channeling from the earth so he doesn't progress from Venom Initiate to ASIM. Meanwhile, Violet is finding herself further entrenched in positions of leadership and political intrigue as she leads a mission to find Andarna's family, the Irid Dragons, which they believe might be found on the Isles and might be the answer to both defeating the Venom and curing Xaden. But even when their mission is a success, everything seems to keep falling apart. Xaden finds himself growing less emotional and more volatile to everyone but Violet. The pacifist Irid Dragons want nothing to do with the human war, and the Venom reveal themselves to be capable of wielding Signets. After discovering her second Signet is dreamwalking, Violet willingly goes into a trap to save Mira and the innocent civilians of Peromia. Though our heroes win the battle, the cost is the final shards of Xaden's soul as he pulls from the earth and goes full ASIM. Violet wakes up 12 hours after the battle to find out she's married to Xaden, 6 dragon eggs are missing, several riders are missing, and those in charge might be looking to her to blame.
That fucking ending. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like she's just so good at that. She loves a good cliffhanger. She does it in a way where I'm excited for the next book already. She does it really well. Like, there's so many questions, but I'm also, like, really jazzed about the questions.
I agree. I feel, man, I think you're going to be kind of surprised at my takes on this book.
Okay.
Because I feel this cliffhanger felt a little bit more forced than the prior two.
Okay.
I think because people expect that from her now, right? But the flip side of that is I do not feel like I'm in agony right now, like I did at the end of Iron Flame. At the end of Iron Flame, I was like, I gotta go take a walk. I gotta meditate.
That's right.
I gotta recognize that my husband didn't go vegan. Like he's not at fault. Like, don't get mad at him. Breathe. And for this one, I was just like, all right, I can wait 2 years. I don't feel, which apparently is like what she said she needs. Which again, take your time, girl.
Yep.
We can wait.
Do not pull an SJM. We will wait.
Right. Take your time. Yes. Make us a good book. And so there's questions. I'm interested. Of course I will read more, but I don't feel that like, that I felt from the prior 2 cliffhangers.
Which is probably good for your heart rate.
It absolutely is. It's good for my child.
Yes.
It's really good for everyone.
It's good for everybody.
But it did kind of make me like a little bit less like, wow.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the end of the book and kind of work our way backwards?
We can. Shall I read the themes first?
Yes.
Okay. So what I had figured was love and war, either in concert or in opposition. climate change / greed, which seems to be, she's really telegraphing that as like this kind of main motif.
Yeah.
The perpetual allure of power and the immortality of power, i.e., can the venom ever truly be wiped out, which I was sort of texting you about.
Sarah has a theory.
What do the creatures of Earth owe humans, if anything? All-consuming love, is it toxic or soul-saving? Love as dangerous and corrupting, and love as dangerous to good governance? Can we ever truly trust one another?
Those are some pretty hard-hitting themes. All right.
Yeah.
Sarah, so faithful here.
Well, I think the Empyrean series is about love and war, which again makes sense to me as like she's a soldier's wife.
Yes.
In real life, I think this is something that's been very present in her life. Yeah. As I talked about on our previous pod, I think it's really interesting that this is a pro-military, anti-government book or series, or it seems to be. Perhaps there will be some kind of pro-government at the end if Violet is in charge and it becomes
the revolutionary government.
A more stable, good government. Does that exist?
Yeah.
Different question. But I really think this book was starting to explore more. And honestly, the previous two did as well. That whole like, you're mine, I would destroy the earth for you kind of love. In the first two books, I think was kind of like, this is the fantasy of this kind of love. Like, of course, this isn't good in real life, but in this fantasy series, it's beautiful. It's the goal. In this book, I think she was starting to be like, it's not good. It's not good that you would destroy the earth for one person.
Yeah. And Brennan even said that towards the end when he was like, you need to pick which battle we're going to win. You cannot save everybody. You need to pick one, and you need to pick one, Violet. You are the one that has to make this decision. So I think you're right. And also, I mean, how many months have passed from the beginning of the first book to the end of the third? Like, they haven't known each other.
Not many. It's been, I think she said 18 months total.
So
they've known each other?
To start to fall in love with somebody, get a commitment from somebody, and that, like, Xaden and Violet are in new love and young love. They're only 20. So
21 and 23, I think.
Something
but
like
yes.
That. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this isn't.
Although one could argue that, again, in a military situation, people do marry younger because you have this extra responsibility and weight on your shoulders that kind of like, I think, ages you in a way.
Right. But there is still a layer of immaturity to their love that when you're young, you do get that all-consuming, oh my God, I would die for you. Mm-hmm. Which I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's kind of a quality of that young love.
I would die for you is different than I would kill for you. And that's where I think so. I would die for you is I would step in a bullet. I would go in the path of a bullet. I would sacrifice myself if it meant you lived. That kind of stuff. I think martyrdom on the level of yourself. Everyone has the right to make that choice.
Yeah.
Does everyone have the right to make the choice of I would wipe out the earth and save just you? No. Not in my opinion.
That's true.
And I think there's a reason that Xaden is the one that became Brennan.
Mm.
I don't think Violet would necessarily make that same choice. I think Violet would actually give up Xaden to save the Earth. Or, I don't know what they live on is called Earth. Whatever.
Yeah,
their planet. Their land.
Yeah. They're domicile.
And, you know, I think it's interesting that in the end of Iron Flame, Xaden makes the choice to channel. Rather than himself, Violet, Taryn, and Scale dying. Yeah. And potentially everybody else living. You know, like, we don't know necessarily if, like, that absolutely had to happen in order for the Wardstone to get fired up. Like, would it have worked out otherwise? I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But he's, like, that he made that choice.
Yeah.
Right? He keeps making that choice.
He does keep making that choice.
And he's progressively getting more evil.
Yeah. It's crazy because by the end of the book, even though I understand for his character why he made the choice to go full Brennan and then disappear into the whole thing, I was like, you also could have just sacrificed yourself and everybody would have eventually moved on.
Exactly.
I mean, Violet likes to think she would never move on, but she would have.
Or she would spend the rest of her life miserable, but everybody else would live.
Yes.
Right? Which again is like, when you're thinking about the individual versus society, that's, you know, worth it. Yeah. And what he's doing too is he's knowingly making this war much harder for them to win, almost impossible, because of how powerful he is. Yeah. So he's knowingly tipping the scales towards Violet dying or them having to kill one another towards a much more cataclysmic end than just a self-sacrifice.
It's true.
Which again is a pretty like toxic, bad choice, in my opinion.
I have a clarification to ask.
Yes.
So once we learn that, you know, whatever the 12 hours are missing, Violet's married, Xanon's obviously gone, and Taryn is sleeping. Like, did the bond between Taryn and Sigil and Violet and Xanon get severed?
That is one of the Reddit theories.
Okay.
That's one of the Reddit theories that was part of the plan, and Taryn and Sigil agreed to that so that their lives would not be tied to one another anymore.
That makes it more sad than anything
I know.
else.
If that's what happened, it's going to be really interesting the way that gets resolved. But because Andarna, we learned that Andarna is capable of breaking bonds.
Yeah.
And so she would be the one that would do that. Yeah, because otherwise, how would they be apart from each other?
Right.
For the next book.
Miserable.
And they're surely going to be apart from each other for the next book.
Yeah.
So part of my experience was, if you recall from a prior podcast, and if you don't recall, please go re-listen to it. I went on this whole tangent about Vampire Academy and where I foresaw the next book's going.
Yeah.
Book 4 is what I thought book 3 was going to be, I think. Because I thought book 3, they would be separated earlier. Like, I didn't realize this was going to be a whole kind of like paused interlude of like before the storm really takes off. And for that reason, I was like low-key bored. I was like, because we know it was getting there.
Yeah.
And I was like, get there. Like, I don't want to invest my hurt further. I felt kind of at a distance. I was like,
protecting
holding them a bit more, arm's length away, because you know that, of course, Satan's going to channel at the end of the book.
Yeah.
So I think book 4 is going to be more like they're separated. She either is going to go to try to kill him or, I guess, save him again. IDK,
but
how that would
been
work.
Told that's impossible.
Right. Maybe she'll learn more information in the interim. I'm not sure.
Or maybe Andarna has learned more information because she went back with the Irids and then came back.
And
but that feels a little contrived. Her
yes,
leaving and then
immediately
so
back.
coming back.
Reddit has other theories about this. I can sprinkle the Reddit theories in throughout. I was going to do it at the end, but Reddit has theories that Andarna has time powers still, and is time traveling back in time. So she was with the Irids for longer, which would be interesting.
That's a fabulous theory.
Yeah,
okay.
Reddit has all the theories.
This is why my
scouring.
cannot handle Reddit. This is why I let you filter the best ones for us to talk about.
Okay. So, I think there's a lot to get into here. I do want to hear your general reaction.
Yeah, I, like you, I felt like there was a lot of the amount of background information in this book, I felt like could have been dealt with sooner.
Mm.
Like, I don't want to say this. I wasn't quite bored because I was excited to be back into the series, and there are so many characters that it was fun to get to know them. And I even said to you, I did not get to do a reread before January 21st. And I was like, screw it. If I have questions, maybe I'll go back and reread after. But I didn't want to wait because I did want to read it because you have to ignore a lot on the internet if you don't read things as they come out.
Fact.
And also I knew we'd want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I was a little muddied when I started the book because I was like, shit, who are these people again? But I was able to kind of get back into it quickly. And then new stuff was introduced, and I was like, is this necessary?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Can you give an example?
I'm trying to think. First of all, I hate Dane's dad.
Oh, I mean, everyone pretty much thinks he's Brennan.
Yeah. And he's just...
Because it's like, how do you suck that hard?
Yeah. But it seems like Dane has come around to the right side, so that's good.
Oh, he did an Iron Flame.
I know.
I was saying this to people. I'm like, Dane, guys, get off the hating Dane train. He's not Kale. He's not Tampon. He's his own guy. And the first time he was presented with the right choice to make, he made the right choice.
True.
And he kept making the right choice.
But it just, I need a little track record, And he got the track record. He's got the track record.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole, flying, and then coming back, and I don't know.
To the Isles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of my takes. Do you want to finish your takes, or is this the main?
Well, I feel like I'm not really solidifying my take, but that's what it was. It was like the whole exploring the Isles, and the Isles weren't that interesting to me.
Yes. Okay. I love world building.
Me too.
One of my favorite books in Throne of Glass, as everybody knows, is Tower of Dawn. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yes. My brain doesn't work anymore. I think that's what it's called. The one where they're in a whole new continent, whole new culture, new food, new systems of governance, new religion, and she just deliciously explores it. I love Game of Thrones. That shit's tedious. Mm-hmm. We're learning about the appropriate way to plate a setting for a table for bringing somebody over for dinner. It's tedious, but you're like, it's so interesting. To me, I like reading stuff like that because I like diving into a whole other world fully. So I have no problem with this book being more world building and explorative. But God, we learned actually barely anything about the Isles.
Yeah.
Oh, they're devoid of color. this is the god they worship, and it means that they have this, and this rules.
Yeah.
And the people all suck.
Yeah.
Proceed to trial, proceed to killing or threatening the people in charge, proceed to go into another aisle. Like, everyone was the same. And it was, like, hard to honestly differentiate them.
Because their names were not familiar, so I had a hard time keeping track of people names and place names, which is always a challenge for me.
Yeah, so that part of the book was, like, it felt like treading water, plot-wise, but then also world-building-wise.
And you knew that they weren't going to find the Irids into the last island anyway.
They didn't even go to the last island, which some people have theories about, that that's where Akira will be found, because that's the goddess of love's island.
Then I misunderstood.
Like the whole love and war thing.
So this was another thing for me for this book. I got really confused really easily.
Yeah. So listening, I'm glad. I think if you had visual read this, it might have been easier. Maybe. Because, I mean, you've seen the same, like, word repeat. I don't know. I feel like, for me at least, listening, that's part of what's hard for me, especially with fantasy books.
I like the different voices. The different voices help me differentiate.
Well, there you go. Again, we are different kinds of readers, but I think, like, this is the kind of book where my head would have been, like, swimming a little bit more. Like, like, who's talking? Where are they? Who's the god? Because they've mentioned, she said that we know Malik very well. We know Amari. Like, we've heard her say thank Dune or whatever. Like, we've heard these things, but it's not been like, oh yes, that is definitely the god of like the characters haven't spent much time thinking about the gods in depth, so therefore we haven't.
Right.
I do think the gods are going to be increasingly more important, which is why she spent.
Yeah, why would she identify all of these different gods?
Well, and it seems like the gods are real and maybe involved in things. Yeah. And it's going to kind of take a more mythological turn with the next two books, perhaps.
Where they're participatory.
Especially given that Violet's dedicated to, or partially dedicated to Dune. Is it Dune or Dune? Dune. Okay, thank you. So, and then, the whole, like, she has two gods she's answering to kind of question, is it Malik? Is it the god of love? What have you? The past, this kind of prophecy element of things. That's, I think, a pretty significant turn from the prior two books, which felt more like self-determination based. So I get it. I get why she spent the time doing it. I don't think it was exceptionally well done.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that lends to why I thought there was a lot of setup in this book.
Yes.
By book 3, I was like, why are we doing all of this here?
Okay. So one of my takes, which I'm going to scroll down. I have all of my reaction is a full-ass paragraph. I am not talking about this series to hype up this transphobic, horrible author, but Harry Potter is an odd number book series, much like the Empyrean series will be, and the hinge book 4, is Goblet of Fire. That is the best book in the series. That is one of the best books ever written, in my opinion.
It's so good. Where
you're climbing this hill, you get to book 4, and you're like shot out of a fucking cannon towards the rest of the series.
Yep.
The hinge book needs to be like that, in my opinion. What this is doing is this is going down into a valley in book 3, and we're going to have to climb out of it. Which, we're all gonna do it. We all like the series. We all ride for Rebecca Yarros. We're gonna read it. But you're gonna, like, it's like, it felt kind of like sludgy or like molassesy when you want it to feel like it's ramping up.
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, is this because she didn't want to take Xaden away from us too soon? Like, holding on to Xaden kind of then created this, like, again, the sense of pause to me, where we were, like, trying to, like, get a few minutes with Xaden left. And I'm like, I was ready to be upset at the end of Iron Flame. I was ready to let him go. I was ready to have him yanked away from myself and Violet.
Yeah.
We share him. And be devastated in this book. Like, we can handle that, I think. So I'm not sure if, like, she didn't want to let him go. She was worried the readers didn't want to let him go. She wasn't, like, ready to take him away from Violet. We get attached to our characters as writers. I don't really know what was going on there.
Well, I wonder, as you're saying this, because she's a military wife, I wonder if this is an experience that she has to go through, where, like, you don't know where you're next. I don't know how predictable. I do not know a lot about how military stuff works, but TV and movies will tell me that sometimes orders come through and they have to go. And so to me, maybe there is some sort of waiting time where there is uncertainty.
Yeah. But does our fantasy series need to have that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, writers do pull from real life.
This is true. That's possible.
Yeah.
That's possible. But to me, a tension I felt building in this book was, I think she can't decide if this is high fantasy or romantasy. And this book I felt like wanted to be more high fantasy. And I wanted it to be as well. I was actually like so much less interested in the romance between Xaden and Violet in this book. I found the smut boring. Not even smut. Because this is another thing on Reddit. People are like, please stop calling these books smutty. They're not. They're like romance fantasy books, right? Which have sex scenes in them.
Yeah.
But they're not erotica, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we also read those books.
We also read them. And I found the sex scenes boring. I was like, not that I was like, ugh, pass, but I was kind of like, all right, you know, versus like in the past 2 books, I was like pretty excited to get to those scenes, right? And they were pretty stellar. Like, the throne scene, the shower scene, the armoire scene.
Yeah.
And like this one, yeah, they had the breaking the table and they had the chair situation, which I was like, spent too long puzzling out the mechanics of.
I did too.
I was like, whose leg is going where? Is he sitting and he's like holding her ass to his face? I think that's what was happening.
But you know, we can also just imagine whatever we want anyway.
But you know me, I get really hung up on if I can't picture the body.
And his hand is here.
Yes. Otherwise, I just see like a mash of like
if
8 limbs.
Comes from the west. 700,000 hours.
I would have done better on the SATs if the word problems had been sex positions. That's real. That's real life.
There were those questions that weren't there. Were just like you were trying to make shapes and space.
Those were the hardest ones for me. But if it had been like...
If there were legs and lips.
If it had been... Violet's leg is over the back of the armchair, yet somehow Xaden's back is also on the back of the armchair, and he's eating her out, but nobody's falling down. How does it work?
You know, before we record every podcast episode, I'm like, what's going to be the clip that Sara calls out from the socials? Nailed it.
Yes. So yeah, didn't enjoy the sex in this book.
It was boring.
Yeah. It was boring. And I'm all for them loving each other. I'm all for him calling her love and them saying I love you a bunch.
They were darling.
They were darling. People on Reddit hated that, and I was like, why? Because they are deeply in love. Obviously, they wouldn't be such dipshits, right? Like they wouldn't be making the choice they're making if they didn't deeply love one another. Yes. And I like seeing that written. You know, I liked seeing Xaden, like, he was like breath of relief on the aisles when he didn't feel magic, and like she's like, oh, is this what you would have been like if you didn't have the burdens of the world on you? All of that's great. Yes. But again, I was like, they're not gonna book 4 is coming. So I felt kind of like, let's get to the heartbreak, honestly, which shocking that that's my take, because I usually am like, no heartbreak.
You really were bored.
I really was bored. I had to read this book so much slower than I usually read. Because of my child.
Yes.
Had to read it during naps. And when a nap was only like 25 minutes, I was like, yeah, fucking deal.
Sleep on your child.
But I was like, okay, I can put the book down. Which like, whoa. Because I was afraid to start this book because I was like, oh no, am I going to stay up all night? My sleep is so precious. Like, am I going to be able to shut my brain down and get to sleep? And I was able to.
Oh, maybe that's a good thing.
It is, but it isn't. It's a good thing for me in my life and my mental health. But it's a bad thing for the book series, I think.
Maybe your tastes are changing.
That's probably, yeah. Let's not go down that road. TBD in season 2 of the podcast. Okay. I already said all these points. Okay, I did like the Brennan developments in this book. And I liked Theophany. Is that what we say her name?
Yes, Theophany.
I liked that. I thought she was a compelling villain. I liked that we learned more about them. Like, oh shit, they can wield signets. Like, how are they ever going to win this war? I liked the whole there's balance, so there might be a person who could do your signet on the other side. I did not like that suddenly everybody has a fucking second signet.
Yeah, I am so confused about that.
That's an ass pull if I've ever seen one.
It just kind of it happened with no explanation. Where to the point where I thought I missed something.
The explanation was like the dragons chose. My theory is, or what I think is what they're saying is the dragons specifically chose like generational riders of their previous riders, knowing that it would get them a second signet because they wanted the marked ones to have more power because they knew that they would be the minority or the oppressed.
So it's because like Taryn was paired before?
Scale.
But so Violet has 2 signets
because she has 2 dragons. Yes.
But
everybody else it's because they had a relative who was a previous rider.
Oh, a relative who was a previous rider, not just that the dragon had a previous rider.
No, because all the dragons had previous riders, pretty much.
Right.
So no, this is like the whole, which we learned in book 1, or no, Iron Flame.
Yeah.
Because Quinn keeps mentioning, oh, thank God I developed, or whoever developed a second signet, because otherwise you go crazy. So your options are, if you have
vague remembrance.
Yeah, she, again, has not been as clear with the things that she needs to be. My real criticism of her as a writer, again, really like her writing.
Yeah.
I think she leans towards telling and not showing in moments that are pretty crucial when you need to show and not tell.
Yeah.
One of those moments for me in this book was when the bond was broken with Andarna. And she's just like telling us, oh, it's awful for Violet. Pretty much. And I'm like, you could have taken way more time. You could have Sarah J. Maas would have slowed that down.
Yeah.
And had you dive into the headspace and describe how excruciating it was in her body and her brain.
Yeah.
It was like 2 sentences to describe, oh, I stopped breathing. And Taryn's like, you will stay alive. And then I was depressed for 5 days afterwards. Like,
and then Mira got into bed with me and I was fine.
Yes. And I'm like, if this is supposed to be the most devastating thing a writer can experience, that needed to be a chapter or 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Like,
do we think that Rebecca is falling prey to publishing constraints? I did read this morning that she said she's going to take time off because of her health, that she said she's had 2.5 years of deadlines and she needs to put her health first, and so she's going to take a little break. She's also going to publish a contemporary romance before we get book 4. But she said the whole series is plotted out, so she knows where we're going. She's like, don't worry, this is not going to be a Game of Thrones situation.
Yeah.
I know where we're going, but I have to focus on my health.
What a burn, George.
Yeah.
George, right back 6.
So I don't know, maybe she did feel rushed, or maybe she just was tired.
Totally possible. But then to me, it's not a failure on the writer, it's a failure on the writer's editor.
Yes.
Because the editor's job is to be like, I love you, take your time rewriting this, but you need to rewrite this.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, capitalism, money, like, God, let's pay attention to the fucking art, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these moments that are, again, like, crucial. Like, this is a really important thing that's happening. And it's kind of like, flip.
Yeah.
And that's to me the second Signet thing as well. I'm like, if this is important, you need to have, she lays groundwork well. We know she can do it. There is so much evidence of Xaden being intrinsic in book 1.
Yes, that once you know, you look back and you're like, how did I not know this?
Like, fuck yes, woman, you're amazing at this. Good job. Like, so we know she can. So the fact that this was like, what? And it feels kind of like cheap way to propel a plot and to solve problems. I also was really bothered by there was a lot of MacGuffining in this book. And don't love that. Yeah. That's like, I'm okay with that in Marvel movies, but in a book, I need there to be reasons why we're going to get a specific thing, and I need it to actually pay off.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like that to me.
Yeah.
So, didn't love that. She has the opportunity to fix that, I think, in book 4.
Yes.
Like, again, if we take time and we like really dive into it.
Well, like you said, she's now put us into a valley, and now she has to crawl back out of it. But she can do it. She has 2 books to do it.
She can. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Violet's second Signet?
We do, and how I predicted it, sort of.
Oh, is this where I should give you the public praise for I can't believe that you kept your mouth shut while I finished the book?
Yes.
You finished a week ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we speak during regular, see each other a couple times a week. Like, she zipped it. But not just zipped it without I know what happened.
I didn't gloat, guys.
There's no gloating.
I did gloat about Halden because I picked up on that. Although, apparently I'm behind the times because on Reddit, people picked up on that apparently in Iron Flame.
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't even remember this guy being mentioned in Iron Flame or Fourth Wing. Or apparently he was mentioned in Fourth Wing as well. Because in regards to Eric / Cam, I guess he had mentioned his brother. And there had been like a Violet had given like a look or something. But the second,
forgettable.
The second they were like, Halden's coming, and Violet's like, Halden, and Taryn's like, Halden. I was like, oh, they fucked. They used to fuck. And I texted Jenny about it. I was like, they used to fuck. And she was like, what are you talking about?
I was only 3 chapters ahead when Sarah surpassed me. But at that point in time, no confirmation. Obviously, there was confirmation. He's a jerk face.
Wow, he sucks.
Major jerk face.
Wow, he sucks. Yeah. Oh my God, such an ex-boyfriend. This was so well written. The like ex-boyfriend coming and being like thinking he can slide back into your DMs, like thinking he can.
Sup, babes?
How you been? What you doing later? Oh, you have a new boyfriend? Let's go to dinner. Like, I have had ex-boyfriends like this.
Oh, so
smarmy. Yeah.
You know,
so well rendered. So well rendered. Really enjoyed that. Loved Riddick more in this book. More of that, like, again, juicy character exploration. And I think she was smart to kind of choose her places to do that rather than trying to do everyone.
Yeah.
I hope the next book we learn more about Imogen. she seems to be more crucial plot-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But then she has this weird dream with Kat, and like my first thought was like, please tell me there's a bisexual love triangle. please give that to me, Rebecca. But it makes sense that it was Kurt's dream. But I was like, this is weird. Why are we seeing this random ass fucking dream? So then I texted Jenny and I said, holy shit, what if her second signet is like she's prescient through dreaming? Yeah. She's having this kind of dream prophecies.
Yes.
So I was like, maybe there's a fire in the future that happens. Yep. Like, who knows? So I wasn't wrong, but I was also half right.
Right, because the example we have of that is the professor who can predict the outcomes of battles.
And apparently Eric now, / Kim.
Mm-hmm. They do say Arik.
Arik? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sure.
Cam, Arik.
Cam, Arik. Yeah. Yes.
Eric, Arik.
Yes.
But I love that by the end of the book, we learn, like, once Violet realizes that she's in Xaden's dream,
mm-hmm.
she, like, stabs her leg to wake herself up. She's like, oh, I need pain to wake up. But then Xaden is still kind of in the dream for a little bit, and then he wakes up. So this is definitely more than just prescience. She's like...
Well, it's not really prescience because it's, like, not predicting the future. It's something that's happening actively. But some people are disappointed in this, and they're like, why would the Erid say that's the most dangerous thing to give her? And I'm like, being able to manipulate someone's subconscious. Did no one see the movie Inception?
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole ass movie about this. Nolan's like, I did this already.
Yeah.
Being able to manipulate someone's subconscious while their shields are down,
mm-hmm.
to either plant ideas or take information, that's the best thing a spy could have.
Yeah, and she, in that dream, before she stabs her leg to wake herself up, she's talking to the sage.
It's pretty clear that the sage is also dreamwalking.
Yeah.
And has been.
Yes.
Right? And, like, that's why Xaden has had a repeated nightmare, because the sage has been, like, repeatedly trying to get the same information out of him. Or get him on the same path.
Yes. So the dangerous ramifications of that are wild.
The ramifications of that are that Xaden would die.
Yeah.
Right? Because it wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if those dreams hadn't been occurring. Mm-hmm. Where it was, like, leading him to this path that was going to end up with this confrontation with the sage. The sage planned it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's very exciting. Mm-hmm. I'm into it.
I'm into it, too.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found really interesting about the Signets is that Theophany is the mirror of Violet's mom.
That was a great twist.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Because I kind of, General, I'd kind of already forgotten about her.
Oh, really? Even though you mentioned sad about her dying.
Yes, but like how powerful she was, I had forgotten about.
Yes.
You know, like, yes. And obviously she, to save everybody, sacrificed herself. Obviously she was powerful. But when they started talking about how, I think Violet was remembering her mother after she was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody be as powerful a Stormwielder as my mother, but Theophany clearly has been using, that's how they've been, preparing, they've been using storms and everything. So that's another layer to me of the Venom are so powerful. They have all the tricks that we have, but they're still more powerful. How
and they've been alive for longer.
It's like, way to set up the mountain to climb.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, the scales are really, especially now that Xaden's, is he going to be actually on the Venom side of things? Who knows? A lot of people on Reddit, again, were like really focusing on the fact of like he held on to that one bit of warmth when Violet said, I love you. A lot of people are theorizing that like his soul is in the ring, which is a very crux.
Yeah.
I don't think Rebecca would be like, I'm going to yank that specific device that straightforwardly.
Yeah.
I think it's just a wedding ring personally. I hope that it is. Whether or not he and his new brother, we haven't even talked about that yet, who that might be.
I'm confused about this.
Oh, are you?
Well, because as I was listening, he kept saying boon. What? Or, I don't know, there was something about boon. In my brain, when I was reading theories this morning, I don't know, there's something about boons. Maybe it was a boon, not a person named Boone. Or maybe I was just not paying attention.
I don't know, because I don't recall reading that word at all.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that. Because I thought he was identifying somebody.
He's
saying... No, I know it is a person.
Yeah. And it's not Panchek. Panchek is a traitor and a coward.
Yeah, and he was off somewhere.
But then he was like, oh, here's a person. I was like, I thought it would never be you. You saw me for the last 5 months suffer with this. There's only a handful of people who've known that he was at it from the beginning, including Garrick and Bodhi.
think I was theorizing other things in my brain because things were happening so quickly.
Yeah. So a lot of people think it's Bodhi because otherwise Violet wouldn't need to be the Duchess because he was training Bodhi to be his successor. So then if both of them are off the board, and people saying when Bodhi was throwing up on the ground, he was really channeling. Or it could be Garrick because Garrick was burning out on his distance wielding, which love that reveal too. Thought that was fun. In terms of second signets, that one didn't bother me as much. Because it's dope to hear about. Distance wielding is cool as shit. That's a really fun way to do a spin on teleporting. Yeah. And then some people are like Dane, but then you see him say that Dane is kind of like off on the battlefield still when he's like seeing the whole battle in his shadow tidal wave. Shadow Daddy. We love a Shadow Daddy. It's so weird that that's a thing. That like and like wielding shadows is like now like the sexiest thing a male character can do. Like,
well, the shadows did like pin her hands above.
Well, that's what they do. Dorian does this. Rhysand does this. Nyktos does this. All of them, and they all wield shadows.
We do love Shadow Daddy.
We love it, but like, where the fuck did this come from?
Because we're running out of things.
Who was like
running out of new things?
A writer was in the room and the shadow of that chair is sexual. Like, I'm gonna wish that shadow was reaching over towards me.
If we have doorknobs that have sexual sentience,
we need to read this book for this season.
Yes.
Yeah, we will get to it, you guys. Shadows. And it's so interesting to me that it's like, his power is like her lightning wielding. You're like, I get why that's the most powerful thing. Yeah. And then you see, she does a good job showing why he's so powerful in his shadows, but it's still kind of like random as fuck. It's like shadow wielding is like the second most powerful.
When you put it together like that, yes.
Yeah, versus you think like fire or something would be a bit
more. Fire burns things.
Right, exactly. There's like, shadows, but shadows apparently do shit. What do you think your signet would be?
Oh, wow. Way to throw that out there. I don't know. I feel like mine would be a more gentle one. Like, I would not be a storm wielder. I would not be lightning.
I think yours would be like something in the realm of like intellect. Like something, like maybe like Melbourne, like strategy.
Although the dream walking would be really cool.
Yes, agreed.
I am a lucid dreamer, so I feel like that would be a natural.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah. I think I would be a mender or a fire wielder. So I'm very, like, when we think of, like, Avatar, The Last Airbender, like, I'm a firebender. But, like, in Uncle Iroh kind of way, like, not in, like, an evil kind of way.
Whenever I'm playing an RPG and I get to pick what kind of character, I'm almost always a cleric or a healer. So
but I can see being a mender as well. Because I work in a healing profession and I like healing people.
There you go.
But I don't think it's particularly exciting for me. Unfortunately.
Well, I don't know. If you could know that you're mending broken bones and the way that... Okay, can we talk about...
Brennan?
Mira?
Oh, yes. How she almost died?
I was ready to lose her.
Me too.
Because of Rebecca's style of writing.
Yeah.
She's not precious.
No.
People die.
Apparently they don't, though, because we only lost Quinn.
But I was a little... Well, and the... guy that I forget his name.
Oh, Traeger?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I was like, oh, I'm glad Kat's fucking again. Yeah. But like who was that guy? Like, I don't remember
him reading the morning rolls though. I'm glad that started to really get unfun. Yeah. So I was ready to lose Mira. Maybe I'm a little disappointed because Mira was saved. Like, great, yay, we get Mira. And Andarna came back so quickly.
Yes, it was like, what's with this preciousness all of a sudden?
Yeah, like, you could have waited till book 4 to tell us that Mira was still alive.
And then Andarna came back.
Well, but her coming back kind of had some...
Unless, again, that we're going to learn...
predicting her coming back and, like, maybe being time travel. Like, her coming back, I think, sets up more.
Hopefully.
Yeah, you could have devastated us until book 4 and then let us know that she survived.
Agreed. And, because obviously I think... what we're seeing from the information her dad left her, that he's like mentioning Mira multiple times, and then Mira was like trained by her mother, and so it seems like they split their information almost, and like the mother transcribes some information, the file transcribes some to Violet, and that they need to come together.
And always have their purpose.
Exactly. So she needs to stay alive, right?
Yeah.
But make us wait for it. And then Brennan. A lot of people on Reddit are sus of Brennan, which I had not been. So I was very interested reading this.
In what way?
People think that he is either venom and hiding it, like the mavens and the sages are able to do,
Okay.
or that he is like a wyvern, and Nalin is a venom, and Nalin is maybe one of the highest up venom, because when he saved Brennan's life, he got a rune on his hand, and the wyvern have runes in the center of them, and so he's like this kind of like zombie human, basically like tied to Nalin, because otherwise because Violet mentions when Sloane siphons from Dane to Brennan, there's no runes on them.
Yeah, I was trying to remember that there was something of a mention where it like
because everyone had assumed that when Nalin siphoned into Brennan, that's where that rune came from, and obviously that's not where that rune came from. So then, what the fuck's up with that hand rune?
Okay, yeah, that part was confusing. So I don't know what they're foreshadowing here, but clearly there's something.
So something is going on with Brennan. I love Brennan, so I'll be
so happy when you learned that he was alive.
I was so happy
because I was so happy. I was so happy. Exponentially happy.
Yeah, and I think he's a pretty good big brother, and like I'm like interested that Xaden trusted him enough to tell him that he was Venom, and they were trying to find a cure together. I wish we had seen that.
Maybe we will. Maybe we'll get some. The way that she does all the letters at the start of the chapter.
True. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, just almost like this book could have honestly been longer, even though it was so slow. Does that make sense?
It does, because I think we would have loved to have had an opportunity to dive into more detail.
Yeah.
We would have felt a little more secure in the reasons why she introduced the information she did.
Yes. So well said. That's exactly it. So, where do you think this is going? Do you want to theorize at all?
You know, I think I might be comfortable living in the valley for a little bit because I definitely do now want to reread this one, like reread all three together.
Yeah. Yes.
Because love a reread. This one, I thought I would be able to follow along more, and the book did not give me.
This was a hard one to not have a reread.
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with rereading. I love, I think I've shared Outlander, that there's been 9 books in the series. I think I started reading them when there were 4 or 5, but every time she's published a new one, I have reread the series. To reread.
Hold on, pause. That's so impressive, you guys.
That's how much I love them.
I would love to read it. I would never do that.
So good. Well, they're all on my Audible, so you can listen to them.
I don't know if I can listen to them.
40 to 60 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if I have that in me.
So good. The narration. Quick side tangent. The narrator of the Outlander series, one woman, she's narrated all of them, I'm pretty sure. And that's like 30 years of books. It's forever.
Yeah.
She does English accents, French accents, Scottish accents for all the characters, male and female, and you can discern them based on her
That's
narration.
amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's worth it.
Okay.
I have read the first 5 in physical book form, but then I do have all of them.
Because these are dense. These are like, the pages are made of tissue.
Yes.
And they are fat little chodes of a book.
Yes. And the type is so tiny.
So tiny.
They're dense. They are. It took me 3 months to get through all 9 books. I think it was a year and a half ago, that November, because it was right around my birthday. I think that book was published. So when she publishes the last one, I'm gonna have to start like 6 months before intersperse. Like they weren't the only books I was reading. So that's why it took me so long.
Okay, well that's fair. Yeah. Well, hot damn, Jenny.
Yeah.
What a thing.
So anyway, I don't know if I want to theorize yet because I do want to reread them. I know there's some holes in my memory. Like some things were really confusing.
Totally.
And that's okay. And maybe if I physically read them, I would have understood it better.
No, I think I'm sad I didn't have the opportunity to read it twice before we're doing this. Because usually that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
When we do a book that we're talking about. Did that make sense? We're doing a book that we're talking about. Wait, yes.
But you said you did reread not too long ago.
No, I wish I'd read this book twice.
Oh, okay.
I did do a reread. I was listening to it while I was pumping in the middle of the night after my baby was born. So I was like, I gotta make this fun for myself. So
that's where
shout out to anybody who has milk coming out of their boobs. Tough times.
You're warriors.
Yeah, truly.
Yes.
No matter what that looks like. Yeah, I was like reading about dragon riding and I was pumping and I was like, yeah. So I had reread it recently, but then this one, like I'm actually listening to it now secondarily.
Yeah.
After having read it, because I know I missed stuff.
Yeah.
Because again, it was like things that were important that needed more time were kind of, some of them were really small moments in a way that it wasn't great to me.
Yeah. We expected more.
Yeah. Yes.
I was satisfied.
Yes.
I'm glad I read it. I'm looking forward to the next books. This is not a Crescent City situation.
No.
By any means.
This is not a Hoffus. This is not a Hoffus dumpster fire.
So still excited, still a fan.
Yes.
More questions than answers in terms of clarity.
Yes.
Like totally fine.
Not just plot questions.
Not just plot questions. She's setting us up for cliffhangers. But just some things need clarifying. This is honestly the first book that I ever wanted to get on the Reddits, because I'm like, there's just a lot here that I feel like people are going to explain to me. Like, I need a companion guide.
Yes, and honestly, people are good at that. So if you want to dive in, recommend, or I can just send you to the relevant posts. I think, hopefully, this will end up being my least favorite book in the series. Hopefully books 4 and 5 are just, like, crushing it. You know, I think she has the ability to really bring it home in book 5. If book 4 brings us to that precipice successfully enough, I think I'm going to really enjoy it, even though I think it will be agonizing in the way that I expected this one to be agonizing. And I'm okay with being like, yeah, that's not my least favorite book. That's okay. Again, I kind of expect the Hinge book to not be that way. You know, again, I'm thinking of His Dark Materials, and The Subtle Knife crushes. The middle book crushes.
I've only read the first. It's on my list. I know.
Can we do it for the pod?
Okay, we need to meme that. Can we do it for the pod? Of course we can. As we were saying the other day, like, this is our pod. We can do whatever we want.
That's one of my favorite books of all time. Oh my god.
The first one was fabulous. It's just, this is the hard part about being intellectual, voracious, content consuming peoples.
Yeah.
Is we just, like, maybe that should be my signet, is I can read during my dreams and then I can recall everything. Oh. And there's some sort of
like a library.
I want a universal library of knowledge.
Yes. That's what signet.
Talk
about dangerous fucking signets. That's probably the most dangerous one.
And you can be a time bender
and
healer. Ooh. And then we can take over the world and save everybody. That's what
we would do it in a non-Satan way. Yeah. We would do the opposite. Hopefully.
Like, my perpetual question, can you ever start a cult for good?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But I constantly, at least once a week, I run this over my brain in the shower. Like, could I start a cult for the betterment of people? Like, can you brainwash people to do good?
Are you talking just about a religion then? Like, can you start a religion?
Yeah, but I like cults. Like, I want to be the head of the cult.
But that, you can be the head of a religion.
I know, but I want it to be a cult. Because I do think arguably churches can be vehicles for good. Not all of them.
I'm not saying church.
No, but that, like, church versus a cult. I don't want
but like, religion is not the same as church. Church is its own little subset.
You said church.
You said church.
You said church.
I did not.
Oh, then now I'm confused.
I said religion. I said you can be the head of a religion. There's many kinds of religion. Wow, Western-centric Jenny over here.
I think Sara got more sleep than I did last night.
That's shocking. I have a baby. Although I wasn't in the interim of the last 30 minutes of Onyx Storm. Well, which would have done a number on my brain. I wouldn't have been able to sleep. So, yeah, maybe that's why.
I'm glad I saved the last 30 minutes for this morning.
Great question, though. Yeah, can a cult be good? That is a very similar question to, I think, what actually is being asked. We didn't talk about my power theory. This pod is running long, you guys.
That's
but
okay. I'm just excited to be back together.
Okay, we are. Can the Venom ever be truly wiped out if, for any magic-wielding human or not magic-wielding human, that's available to them? It's about, can humans as a collective resist that temptation? No. That's why the earth is in disrepair and why fascism is on the rise and why capitalism is destroying everything, right? Like, no. So how the fuck do they win this war?
I don't know.
It's like, my stupid, like, analogy to you is like, it's like a war being contingent on nobody smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or like whatever, like, vulnerability you're having, like sex. It's like, can you resist that? All of us, not a single person on this planet.
All at the same time for the
can
greater
fold.
I don't think so.
So to me, the only solution is no magic.
The only thing I can think of is if somehow Xaden wipes everybody, all the venom out, and then sacrifices himself.
But then there could be more venom in the future, because anybody could be like, well, I want more power, grab.
Yeah.
Because it's available to anyone. So the only solution is, like, I think all the dragons being like, and the griffins being like, yeet, like, goodbye, all bonds broken, all bonds broken, no more magic, nobody wields magic.
I don't know, I mean, we'll find out. Rebecca has a theory, at least. She's plotted the next 2 books.
Yeah, because I'm like, power is inherently corruptive, and we as humans are inherently vulnerable to that corruption via power. Because we want power.
Because time stays marching. So even if you think that it won't corrupt you, fine, it might not corrupt you, and you might think you're setting up the next generation to be incorruptible.
Right.
Whatever the word is. But then somebody else is going to be like, oh, hey.
Because evil itself is never wiped out.
Yeah.
And this is a thing, this is in Game of Thrones. When one of my favorite podcasts, The House of R/Binge Mode, it used to be Binge Mode. Shout out, love that podcast. They talk about this all the time, that it comes up in Game of Thrones that, like, the enemy is never vanquished.
Mm. And you
like,
will eventually evil,
and maybe this comes up in Star Wars too. They talk about it all the time. It comes up in a lot of fantasy stories. Like, it's a fight you never win, but you keep fighting. Mm-hmm. Because you have to.
Yeah.
But so then it's like, if the Venom represent this evil, this, like, human evil, but that's what the dragons, the Irids, were saying. They're like, this is a human problem, you guys.
Yeah.
That's your issue. It has nothing to do with us. And I was kind of like, respect. I mean, you guys suck, but respect.
Yeah.
Respect that take. You know, I feel like that's what the whales are doing right now on our planet. They're being like, sinking those yachts.
Did you see there was a huge pod of dolphins? Like 1,500 dolphins?
What?
I just read a headline.
1,500?
Something like that.
Wow.
Okay, I will fact check this. That's what I have in my brain. I am not the most reliable brain, clearly. But I saw the headline and I was like, pod of 1,500 dolphins off the California coast.
Beautiful.
I mean,
love that for the dolphins. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I think it's, can we truly be saved in this way is the question.
Yeah. And not for any extended period of time.
Unless there is a cure. Unless they, like, truly find a cure and people can repeatedly be cured.
Yeah.
And then either, like, enough of them are cured that, like, they can contain the amount of people who don't want to be cured. I'm not
for
sure.
A certain amount of time.
For a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the wheel keeps spinning.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's why books like this will always be written. And that's why we love reading books like this. Because I think there's something, there's a commonality in the human condition that, you know, we want peace to win. We want war to be gone.
Right.
But.
Right. And I mean, I think it's very apt, I mean, for the times we live in, right? Like, the best books, the best art reflects our world back to us so we can perceive it in a different way. Mm-hmm. And I think she's doing a really good job at that. Again, I think some of it's a little cliched or straightforward, like pulling from the earth, it ruins the earth, climate change. Okay. Right? But, I don't mind.
Yeah, where else are they going to pull it from?
I don't mind there being kind of a juvenile metaphor, I guess, at work there. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we don't have to overcomplicate things.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, this is like a really good grilled cheese sandwich. You know what I mean? We're not asking for creme brulee, or I don't know what the, like, we're not asking for, like, or a souffle.
Yeah,
okay? Cheese souffle. It's like, this is a really good grilled cheese. I'm not expecting it to be a souffle.
Yeah.
So when people get mad about that kind of stuff, I'm like,
Yeah, Crescent City should have been a souffle.
Crescent City, it should have stopped after the first book.
Yeah.
It should have been a one-off.
Yeah. Well, anyway. There's a podcast episode about that. Do you want to know our
If you want to hear me bitch and moan for an hour.
It's high quality bitching and moaning. It's ridiculous.
Sarah, you never let us down so hard. Not me, Sarah. Sarah J. Maas. Sarah with an H. Those H's you can't trust them.
All right. Well, we have now officially begun season 2. I think we're still solidifying our plans for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
We are.
Are we going to have, like, a regular release schedule? Like, what are we going to do? Okay.
So we're going to turn off the microphone and talk about that.
Stay tuned. Oh, we didn't do our ratings.
Oh,
Spice rating.
Spice rating.
Like, half a pepper? Like,
I mean,
a pepper?
a pepper.
A pepper.
A pepper. A singular.
Singular pepper.
Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
Overall rating out of 10? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Out of 10, I'm going to give this a 6.8.
I was thinking like a 5. Yeah.
I was delighted to be back in the universe.
Me too. And I think maybe my rating will go higher with time. I'm just like now, like having just finished it, I'm kind of like,
That's true. I wonder if like our ratings as we go, if by the end of the series, if we would change the rating.
We absolutely need to touch on that in however many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of reading series.
It is. Yeah.
They're standalones, but they work together.
Correct.
This might just be the setup for 2 bomb-ass books.
It might all be really worth it in terms of payoff. And I hope it is.
And when we read books 4 and 5, there might be stuff that we go back and we're like, oh, we should have picked up on that.
That's why the aisles suck. Like Zayden's mom, what a bitch.
That wrapped up way too quickly, too.
Yes. Oh, you're bringing Zayden's mom back? And she's this, like, me, chocolate cake making. I didn't realize my husband was evil. Like, what?
Yeah.
So weird.
There was a lot of the things were too quick.
Too quick. And that's an important thing. Mm-hmm. Although, shout out to Violet for reading that situation correctly and poisoning everybody before they poisoned her.
Yeah, that was pretty badass.
That was badass, yeah. I love when Violet does. Violet is pretty violent, as Zayden points out in the first book.
Yes.
Oh, violence. Yeah.
You,
like, you crazy bitch. Only you would think of that. Like, it's genius.
So,
yeah.
That actually was one of my favorite scenes.
I like it when she does, like, unlikable stuff like that. I mean, it ends up being likable, but it really reminds me of, like, Selena. What's her real name? Why can't I think of her real name?
Selena Sarbathian and...
Aelin. Yeah. It's like, oh, Aelin would they would get along so well. Like, they would love each other.
Ooh, let's write that fanfic.
Maybe I should. I don't have time, but maybe I should.
A little sapphic love affair between Violet and Selena. Do it.
Although I feel like Kat and Selena would be the one fucking each other, but...
Well, maybe Violet and Selena could start out, but then Kat could come in.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I'm giving us the spice that we did not get in this book.
Yes! Okay. Yes. If we see other people fucking, it might be better. I think maybe it's just like same thing with Violet and Zayden over and over. Like, let's see Kat and Schrager. Let's see Mira and Drake. That's absolutely going to happen. Let's see Dane and Sloane. That's absolutely going to happen. Let's see Riddick and his many, multifaceted, multi-gendered lovers. Oh,
that's right.
That's Riddick is a bi icon.
Yeah.
We love him.
We love him.
He's probably going to die.
Stop hurting the people.
Just saying. We got to know him real well in this book.
True.
It's suspicious.
It's true.
All right.
I think that's
Wrap this up.
All right. Next one, we'll let you know what that's going to be. We're not quite sure yet, but we're excited to jump back in.
We're excited to be back. Thank you for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Spread Your Wingspan podcast.
We would love to hear what you think about our topics today. Be sure to connect with us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You can find us on both with the handle @SpreadYourWingspan, and all of the links and more fun stuff are found on our website, spreadyourwingspan.com.
And if you have a book or author you want us to check out, send us an email at hello@spreadyourwingspan.com to tell us.
We hope you tune into the next episode.